Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
And boy, do we have an episode for you today.
Mm-hmm.
But first, it's official. Sam's Kickstarter has finished.
Yes.
Tell us about it, Sammy.
It's done. I don't have to tell you about it.
There you go.
No, we're officially done. Again, a big heartfelt thank you so much to everybody who donated, everybody who shared. Your support just means the world to us, everybody at Team Quetzalcoatl. We are indebted to you. And yeah. We now have an Instagram. We didn't have one when we were setting up, but we have an Instagram now. I'm going to pull that up so that I can get you the link so that, everybody can go follow us. That is just going to be Quetzalcoatl Comic. We'll put a link somewhere. I'll be sharing stuff on Instagram all the time. I'll be throwing up links on Twitter as well. So yeah, we don't have a lot going on right now, but that is probably going to be the main focus of where we're going to be putting updates, outside of the Kickstarter page. So yeah, go follow that. That's where myself and my team are going to be sharing stuff for the comic, and you'll get to see a little bit of our process going into it and this journey as we go from being a successfully funded Kickstarter to a full-fledged, fully produced graphic novel. So go check that out.
Heck yeah, that's exciting, man. So yeah, if I remember, Matt, as you edit this episode, remember put a link to the Instagram and social media stuff in the show notes, because if not, people are going to have a heck of a time trying to spell it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's exciting, man.
Thank you.
So we've been having a little conversation today via text about Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yes, we have.
So friends of the show, Mickey and Amy, who y'all may remember from our Halloween episode, they have started.
And Mickey, who is co-writer of Quetzalcoatl.
They have started watching Star Trek: Next Generation. Now, okay, if I remember this correctly, so Amy used to watch when she was young, right? With her mom. Did Mickey ever watch?
Mickey has said that he's seen some of it, but he's never been real captured by it. Yeah. So
this is gonna have to change. So they've only got through the first 3 episodes, I think. So guys, I'm telling you, you're still starting. You're at the very beginning. So I'm waiting for y'all's podcast. Yeah.
Or I just had a brilliant idea. What if every other episode of this podcast is just us doing okay, we're not going to do every episode of TNG, but if we do it in bursts, if we do it in first 5 episodes, and then we talk about it, and then for the week after that, it'd be okay, we watch the next episodes, and then so 2 weeks later we're doing 5 and 10,
that's
or 5 through 10.
That's interesting. I don't know. I feel like it would have to be toyed with, Yeah,
but
I mean, because that's a lot of watching.
Yeah, true.
Lost pales in comparison to that. And I don't like when you do something like that where you do a chunk of episodes. I think it only benefits if the episodes aren't good. Because if it's really good, then you'll just end up doing an episode off one episode. So
yeah.
That's why I say Mickey and Amy should do it, so we don't have to. We'll just be guest stars every now and then.
Hey, okay, that's fair.
It's really interesting because I really want to know what their thoughts are, especially because their next episode, which I'm sure they'll have watched by the time this airs, the next episode is easily the worst next gen episode.
Oh yeah.
And probably the most racist Star Trek episode of all time.
For sure.
But funny enough, I think it's also maybe the one I've watched the most
Why?
because it was always available to rent when we were kids. So
Oh,
when
like
we
at
were
the library and
kids,
stuff?
no, when we were kids, we would go to Hollywood Video. Uh, that was like our the close video shop, and then once that closed, like we migrated to Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
But they always had the original series, the
Mm-hmm.
animated series, and Next Generation on VHS tapes. And so I was able to watch Star Trek growing up. I was born in March of 87. The first episode aired, I want to say September 87. So I got that first 7 years of Star Trek Next Gen.
Mm-hmm.
But then once Sam was born and once this show ended, we still kept renting the videos. But for some reason, that the racist episode, I don't even remember what the title is.
Code of Honor.
Code of Honor, that's right. Code of
Mm-hmm.
Honor was always available
Mm-hmm.
to rent.
Probably because nobody wanted to rent it.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like they had an episode queue and they're like, here, this one's just
there wasn't
here
a
at the
lot to
store.
rent. Like we probably watched all the Star Trek tapes they had. And there wasn't that many, so we kept circulating, but that one we probably watched the most.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Yeah. It was wild.
Wild times, yeah.
I'm really interested to see. I'm waiting. I'm hoping they're watching it tonight, so my phone's gonna blow up with their text. Also, because they're in Los Angeles, so they're 2 hours behind us. So when I'm up late watching something, and I'm assuming Sam's in bed, our phone is blowing up. You're like, "Oh my god, this happened! Oh my god, this happened!" Like, living vicariously.
Mm-hmm.
Although I mean, technically, I'm watching Next Gen 2. It's just taking me a while.
Yeah, I am too.
So
yeah, like it's interesting because it's like they're we've obviously grown up with this, but like they're still technically like newbies. And so getting to see their reactions, getting to see like, oh yeah, I kind of remember Picard, I kind of know like this and that about him. I really like how like Amy thinks that Riker looks weird without the beard.
Yeah.
And Mickey's like, no, I like him. I think he's fine.
Yeah, and it's what was really weird is because during the pandemic I started watching Next Gen, and I hadn't really seen it since I was a kid, and I've never actually like sat down and watched the whole thing, except when I was a kid, with Dad. I was ages 0 to 7, and so watching it, here we are. Easily 30 years later, I'm having like the weirdest like flashbacks, kind of deja vu. And so the major example was Code of Honor, because like I watched the first 3 and then I get to Code of Honor and I'm like, I knew it was that episode. I knew what it was about, but as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, there's certain lines, there's certain things that happen. It's like the weirdest things you remember, like movement, the way certain people move in a scene, and like, I'm like flashing back to like single digit aged Matt. I was like, oh man, like it's so wild. And every now and then something will happen in Star Trek where I'm like, oh, I remember this. But it's not so much like you remember in the show. It's like I remember watching. I remember sitting on the couch in the living room watching this. Mom was usually in the next room over doing something on the table, And so like it's just a bizarre experience that I'm absolutely loving. Yeah. So it's kind of cool to see Mickey and Amy, to see their perspective as well. And like right now I want to say I'm on season 5. Yeah.
Okay.
So what was the episode you said you just watched one recently, or?
Yeah. So I remember watching this episode, but I didn't realize that until like halfway through the episode. But it was it's episode 6, Where No Man's Gone Before. It's the first time we ever meet the Traveler.
Oh, is that the one where they shoot him in the future?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. Man, well, maybe one day we'll do a Lost Legacy Star Trek edition.
Yeah.
Only if Mickey and Amy doesn't do it first. So I'm telling y'all, get started.
Season 101. That's what it's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah. But what else is new before we jump into Lost? Before we get lost, I feel like there hasn't been any
No.
like movie news or anything this past week.
No, not really. And I kind of like, not like
Lightyear,
taking a break. Oh,
Lightyear
yeah.
underperformed by a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Uh,
I get it. People don't really understand what it is.
yeah.
It was just the fact that there's a Buzz Lightyear movie that's not related to Toy Story was confusing enough
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people just kind of stayed away.
Yeah, and it's like it doesn't have a lot of the same iconography that we associate with Buzz Lightyear. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, already,
Mm-hmm.
kind of disassociated with the rest of everything else. So it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah. Well, this is just a lesson to be learned. You have to honor the source material enough, make it close enough. So when I do my gritty Woody movie, oh, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be called "There's a Snake in My Boot," starring Tom
Wow.
Hanks as Woody.
As Woody, yeah.
Yeah, but I want like Tom Hanks from like Road to Perdition. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. This is gonna be good.
Okay. So essentially I can imagine your Woody movie is gonna be like Unforgiven, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like it
But
also
Gene
has to
Hackman
appeal to the
is,
kids because it
oh
has to,
yeah.
be a kids movie.
But it also has
Or
to appeal to the older fans who grew up with Toy Story. So, it's got to do the generational
right.
thing.
Well, but and you see the thing is it doesn't have to be a kids movie, but it has to be kids enough
Mm-hmm.
so you can get the product placement.
Gotcha.
That's
Gotcha.
that's the did you read the recent interview of Tim Burton
Mm-hmm.
talking about his time on Batman?
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that like everyone hated Batman Returns and McDonald's hated him because they're like, this is too dark. This is
Mm-hmm.
way too dark. And he's like, this is Batman. This is what you do. And then he was like, quote unquote, promoted to executive producer for
Mm-hmm.
Batman Forever. And they just didn't offer him the director's seat back. And he's like, and what do you do with it? He's like, you put nipples on the bat suit. That's what you
Mm-hmm.
did with it.
Mm-hmm.
He cussed a lot more. I'm like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And there was tons of product placement,
Yeah.
but wasn't that great? I think
Yeah.
now with nostalgia, there's good things in both Forever and Batman and Robin. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like obviously at the time was not very well received. But like you gotta hand it to Joel Schumacher for working in the system, getting to make the movies essentially that he was hired to make,
mhm.
and he's, it's kind of the thing that like people are kind of like ragging on Sam Raimi about right now for doing Multiverse of Madness. They're like, oh, it's not like as Sam Raimi, as we expected. It's like it was never going to be,
Mhm.
but Sam Raimi is able to work within the system and still give a movie that has his, that has enough of his style, and he delivers. And Joel Schumacher was the same way. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, and especially like watching a lot more movies, during the pandemic, because I only really knew Joel Schumacher from the Batman movies. I finally got to watch like Lost Boys and Flatliners, and even listening to some of the composer's music from other movies, because he did the music for like Alien 3. What was it? Oh, An Interview with the Vampire. And he was the same composer who did, the Schumacher movies. And it's like, this is interesting. Like, so it's kind of like I'm going backwards to see like where they ended up, working together, collaborating for those Batman movies. And it's interesting because I feel like they both had more gothic roots in their previous work, but then when they get to Batman, it's a cartoon. In my mind, I'm like, oh, like, why didn't you just go the other way? Why didn't you keep going in the Burton route? So then I have to sort of like think like, oh, well, you have to think about the time, more of the commercial stuff, the McDonald's thing, the toy tie-ins and stuff. But I think it works. There's a lot of it that doesn't, but I think on the whole, I think it works, especially if you look at them as more of like a send up of the more campier versions of Batman. So yeah, I don't know. I enjoy it. I think Batman and Robin slaps. And you can quote me on that. And Batman Forever. It's cool.
I haven't seen either one in a long time, but I watched, I want to say it was like the first 5-10 minutes, the opening of Batman Forever. And dude, I was hooked. I'm like,
right?
This is really fun. Like I forgot all of this, But speaking of Batman Forever, starring Val Kilmer, did you hear director Michael Mann has written his first novel, Heat 2, which is both a sequel and prequel to the movie Heat, starring Val Kilmer, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting. Michael Mann, like I don't know if I mentioned on this podcast, but we've talked about it. He's slowly becoming like my favorite director. Just the more I'm exposed to his movies, because I had always seen Heat, and I remember, Last of the Mohicans is like, to me, that is cinema. and then I will always defend the Miami Vice movie. I'm like the only person who saw it that I knew when it came out. I'm like, I'll be there.
Yeah.
But that was it. And now slowly I want to go like branch out and see his other stuff, see what else he's done. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to read the book Heat 2, because I didn't really love the characters that much. But yeah, I just thought that's interesting. That's kind of cool. A sequel, prequel.
As a book.
Yeah. Yeah, see, it would be like, I think they already said like they can't do the sequel because the characters are, I think it's like right after the first movie ends. So everyone's already too old.
Right.
So, but the prequel stuff, like Al Pacino says he wants Timothee Chalamet to play that role. He's like, he's doing a great job. He's doing a great job. He's got a great ass.
Oh my God. Does he though?
Dunkaccino.
Oh no. See, now you're gonna have to segue from that into Lost. So, or come up with another topic to talk about to then segue into Lost, because
she's one of us. One of us, Sam.
Now you just sound like George Costanza trying to do Al Pacino.
Yeah, no. All right.
We really run the gamut of subjects on this show, and
just today alone, and we thought we were gonna have nothing to talk about. It's Dunkaccino.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I don't know why I have such troubles with, segues. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Now I'm just bummed. I was having fun. It was going to be a good episode, and now I just feel like a failure.
Oh no, you're not a failure.
I guess we just have to move on, Sam. We just got to keep going, one step in front of the other.
Hey, that's what the survivors have to do.
That's true.
They just got to keep on going.
Yeah. And they're going into season 3, episode 16. One of Us. As Juliet moves onto the beach, she faces distrust from the survivors. But a sudden crisis might be just what she needs to start fitting in.
Oh, wow. Shout out to friend of the show, Al Pacino.
This was a hell of an episode, according to your text this morning.
Yes, it was.
All right, what are your thoughts? Surface thoughts.
I dig it. Thought it was great. Yeah, on the whole, from flashbacks to everything going on the island, think it's great. Good character interactions. Like this, like I was thinking about it earlier after I had watched the episode, and I was just going through the rest of my day. I was thinking about it, and really just like we've come so far from those first like handful of episodes where it was like day two, somebody stole the water. What's going on with that? Like day, 45 or whatever. Like we got to, something with the caves is going on. We got to move from, beach to caves. We're split. All that stuff. Like we've really come a long way. And it was really cool seeing like Jack show up, and everybody's like, oh, Jack, it's Jack, and they all come and rush to him. A whole sea of extras we've never seen before, but the core cast is still there, and you're like, okay, this is cool. And even just how like Sawyer has come so far, and we can see that in how he just like looks at Jack, and Jack looks at him, and they both just give a nod, an agreement, like, yeah. And then they go for the handshake, and then they hug. Then they do the bro hug, like they do that. So like we've really come so far, and just like, wow, like these people have only been here for 3 months, but for us, it's been, 3 years. And
has it only been 3 months? I don't remember.
Yeah,
the days at this point.
Oh, maybe. Well, Hurley, what's that? Hurley said it last episode.
Oh, I guess so. Because 30 days a month, so probably around 90-ish days.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So yeah, like think about it. Like they've come so far as people, and storytelling wise, as characters. It's so cool. It's so rad. And I think that was just a good. This was just a good episode to show, how far these characters have come, just like the little interactions everybody's having with each other, who ends up sort of like teaming up together, to go off and do certain things. Like, yeah, I thought very from a storytelling writing angle, 2 thumbs up.
They've come a long way, and like no one bothered to tell Jack that Nikki and Paolo were dead, because he probably wouldn't even know who that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes sense, because that thing, their flashbacks started like 85 days before their death. So that makes sense. And then, yeah, last week Hurley mentioned, we've been here 3 months and you haven't learned how to fish and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's going to be interesting to see how what is this, episode 16? We just have a handful of episodes left for this season. And then, they essentially start wrapping up the show with the last 3 seasons. That's kind of like their plan. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see the progress that happens after that. But even then, we talked about the Jack's Tattoos episode and Nikki and Paolo. And since then, like, you could kind of feel steam is kind of picking up a bit. So I'm hoping it stays that way. I'm hoping it's consistent. One of the clear indicators was this episode. I was really surprised that we got another Juliet episode when we just had one a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
What is this? This is episode 16. Her episode was 8. Okay, so that's pretty good. 8 episodes ago.
Okay.
But yeah, so it is kind of weird, because we're talking about there's so many characters on the show who this season particularly, they're getting a flashback that's not, it's important to the characters, but it's not really important to the overall story. So like we didn't really need to see that. But then you get characters like Juliet, who she's brand new this season, and she's had a pretty strong presence on the island, and now she's already got 2 flashback episodes. And so that's one of the things I love about Lost, especially when the season ended, because this was mid 2000s. All the tabloids and stuff were online. Twitter was just brand new. So this was like the first thing, at least for me, where like news was getting out there. Like, oh, okay. They cast who? I don't know who that is. I wonder what kind of character this is. You
Yeah.
know? So that's part of I don't know, to like now I could kind of like associate that with like a D&D campaign. Like, ooh, I wonder what Sam's going to play this game. It's kind of the same thing. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
who Elizabeth Mitchell is, but I wonder who she's going to play. That she's
Mhm.
a main character, you
I will
know?
be playing a time traveling polar bear.
Oh, there you go.
Mhm.
You know, like when they said Michael Emerson's going to be a series regular, like, okay, we figured. And then Elizabeth Mitchell, I don't know who that is, but I wonder how she's going to fit in. All the theories start, and like,
Mhm.
oh, it's such a great time to be alive. So, but unfortunately, we still do have a lot of characters sidelined this season. They're not really doing much.
Yeah.
And that's to be expected when you have like your series regulars are like over 10 people already,
Mhm.
you know, and you continue to bring in new people. It's like, well, yeah,
Mhm.
sorry. But Juliet is an excellent addition to the roster of characters. And this
I agree.
episode, like my first note, this episode was like, Juliet's a badass. Like, damn.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about the flashbacks. Because kind of like the Nikki and Paolo episode, we got more some time hopping in the
Mhm.
flashbacks. You know, we see her life as she's basically joining. I forgot what the laboratory's called.
Mhm.
She's joining Richard's lab with Ethan and all that stuff. And then we see her journey on the island, and time starts passing. I think she's been there 3 years. Her whole flashbacks this episode spans 3 years.
Mhm.
I liked it. It was interesting, and we kind of got a lot of information.
Yeah.
We knew she was going because she was like a fertility doctor, and she's
Mhm.
really done the impossible. You know, Richard even tells her, "You who have brought life to a space where there was none, or where there it wasn't designed to be."
Mhm.
It's like, I want to see what you can do with us. And I don't know, man. It's pretty shady. You know, they're not telling her where she's going.
Oh,
They're going to
absolutely shady.
tranquilize her because it's a rough ride. Would you
Mhm.
go?
I mean, I'm not a scientist, so no, I
What
wouldn't.
if you were in her position? Like, that's rough.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know because it's like,
6 months,
yeah, 6 months.
quote unquote months. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I don't know. Well, because it's like you also have to think about who Juliet is as a person, and like I know, she didn't want to leave her sister.
Hmm.
That was the biggest thing. Um, but it does kind of come down to like, who are you as a person? Like, are you willing to do this? And it's like it comes down to, I don't want to say it's something as simple as like pride, but it is something along the lines of vanity. It's like you want to see exactly what you can do. And
Mm-hmm.
this company, this lab, whatever, these people are offering her the chance to prove that wasn't just a fluke. He says, I think he says something along the lines of like she's a miracle worker, right?
Hmm.
Because of what she did with her sister. So then it's like, okay, you you could ride that high for the rest of your life, and I think you would be okay. But like as a scientist, I think there is something innately inside of you that is curious to see if you can do it again. you
Right.
know
I think one, I mean, that's also the responsibility. Can I do it again? It worked
Mhm.
once. But then two, it's also like the again, kind of like what you said, the pride, the ego,
Mhm.
also the curiosity. It's
Yeah.
like, if I can do this,
Mhm.
what else can I accomplish?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very tempting offer. Um, yeah, man. I don't know. That's crazy.
this is kind of like a sideways tangent, but I remember reading a Tumblr thread a while back that essentially was asking like kind of that question. It's like why do like scientists in movies who get like captured by the villains, you know, and they like, oh, like we're gonna build, you know, you need to build the death laser or something. Like I want to see them where they're like they just don't do it. And then people were commenting, it's like, I would like to see that too, because that'd be funny. But I think a big part of it is the challenge of it. The scientists are like, we're going to capture you to, you know, to like build a death laser. And then you're really tasked with like, can I though? Can I actually do it? Like,
yeah,
let's find out. Yeah.
Because it's kind of also the thing, like if you're in a position where you could do that, if you have the skills to build a death laser,
I want to try it.
You're going to want to do it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Also, you have to think about when am I going to get funding for a project like this again? So
yeah, man. You know, a lot of people don't believe in the great power comes great responsibility thing, and we're seeing a lot of that right now with our billionaires going to space. And yeah, it's just I don't know. You could be using all that money and knowledge for something else. I do put stock in it, and I do believe that, you know, we do need to be going to space. I just don't like who's doing it right now.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot to gain from space. I mean, just looking at our past, our technology stuff is all because of the little bit we have traveled into space right now. So what we're doing, like, it's kind of like, I think this is like a 10 to 20 year process. You know, the fruits of our labor will pay off in 10 to 20 years. That's the way space technology works. Or like what we learn from space trickling down, getting experimented on, and then actually getting to the people. That's how long it takes. But I just don't like the people doing it.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
be like, I know we're going off on a tangent here, but did you hear about Mark Cuban, what he's doing with his pharmaceutical company?
Yeah, I did.
Man, it's like, it almost seems too good to be true. But I was checking it out the other day, and luckily, God willing, knock on wood, I really don't have any, I don't need any medication off that site, because it's, you know, everything I need, I could just get over the counter. But like, man, they have some good medicine. They have like up to 90 different medications on there that you can get for really good prices. It's like, that's what we need our rich people to be doing. That right there. Can't speak much for Mark Cuban's character. I don't know much about him other than he's on Shark Tank. But yeah, I imagine, I don't think Ben is rich, but he kind of has that, he has that like megalomaniac kind of vibe to him, you know?
Oh yeah,
he's got that power. And yeah, no matter what, like, he's not letting Juliet go. Doesn't want her to leave the island. He keeps saying, like, I gave you my word. Like, what is your word worth? You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's something you have to earn that to be able to use it. And it doesn't seem like he ever has.
Yeah.
So, but as far as like the stuff we learned, there's a lot of fertility stuff going on this island. And we kind of learned a lot about what's going on with Claire and why Ethan took her. He kind of went rogue, and she's the first person to give birth on this island. Which that brings up something very interesting, because as Juliet was saying that, she said, well, I don't remember what the line is, like, pregnant women die on this island. Claire was the first to survive. And Kate just looks to the side, and she's looking at Sun. I'm like, I forgot about that, because I was completely so early. Forgot. That was so early in the season. I'm like, oh no.
But like, also sort of like leaves the question, like, okay, like, were these pregnant women coming to the island, or were they getting pregnant on the island?
Well, they were on the island. You see, that's what Juliet was telling Ben. She says, I think it's it has to do with the conception. If that's the case, she's like, I can't help them. Like, the only way we'll know is if we take someone off the island to the mainland. And that's when he's like, no.
Yeah, Ben
Yeah,
won't
he's like,
have
no,
that.
it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
but then it looks like, obviously the answer falls right in their lap because of the plane, and Claire shows up. It's like, okay, this is their control test now.
yeah. So yeah, perhaps that's how it seems like that's why she survived and the pregnancy was okay. It's because she actually got pregnant off island.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we're all over the place. It's interesting too, because since her flashbacks are taking place on the island, it gets really crazy talking about it. But now Claire's having all these problems, and it has to do with she's basically going cold turkey off the medicine that Ethan gave her, supposedly. I will get into that later. But yeah, man, like I thought it was good. I thought it was great flashbacks, because it wove Juliet's story into her modern day story, and also kind of into the lore of the show and what's going on with the others. Okay, well, what about the on island stuff?
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, are we going to get some answers out of Juliet? And we really don't. And honestly, I wasn't expecting that. But it's everybody's reaction to the fact that they're not getting answers is what really sells this episode. And yeah, like Jack is walking in to the camp, this is a hard sell because one, he's not willing to let anybody talk to Juliet, and I feel like that's the problem. Because he's so like they're just gonna gun for her, they're gonna do all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, rightfully so. But the fact that he's just like, nope, nobody's talked to her, nobody's asking her questions, all that stuff, is like, obviously, like, now there's a barrier. That's not helping your case.
Yeah.
Two, and this isn't tied to Juliet. Two, Jack doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that shoe is going to drop, because he just casually mentioned the sub, that was going to take him off the island. And everybody's like, wait, we're like, they're going to take you off? Like nobody gets time to react, to really sit in what Jack is talking about. And it feels very, I don't know. I don't know if this is a verb or anything, but it's like, it feels very others. It feels like Ben. It feels like all of the others we've come across this entire show. Jack is just giving them information without any context. He's dropping these things without really going into it. And then, of course, something's got to happen where it's like, oh, no, like that conversation, tabling that for, I don't know, 3 days from now, I guess, when we're dealing with a new crisis. But yeah, it's just the fact that like Jack doesn't want to be here, and it shows. The fact that he's not talking to Kate, he's just like, yeah, it happened. I did this thing. They said they were going to let me go. Like, he's over it. He's over it, and he's pissed off that he missed his chance, I guess. So yeah, it's tenuous, to say the least. And I think we're really going to see some heads start sort of like turning away from Jack.
I kind of wish there had been a scene this episode where somebody questions Jack. Like, I wanted to see Sawyer and Saeed go off to the side or something, because they do. And it's like, okay, we don't trust Juliet. This isn't going to work out. I wanted someone to question Jack. Be like, do you think they did something to him? That's what I want someone to ask. That's what I want someone to ask Kate as well. Like, you brought him back, but he was with them for a week. Do you think they did something? Kate came back talking about brainwashing, I'm like, do you think they did something?
Yeah.
Now, we as an audience, I don't think so. Like, they didn't show that. I mean, legitimately, Jack doesn't want to be there from what we saw.
Yeah.
He made this deal to save Ben, all this stuff. But from the Islanders' perspective, like, can we still trust him?
Yeah.
I wish that was kind of a thing in this episode.
I do too. I hope they get to do that like next episode or in the next few episodes. Yeah, but you know, and I agree with you. I don't think that happened at all. Mostly because like I don't think Ben does that to people he knows that he can just like manipulate.
Right, right.
You
It seemed
know?
more like a punishment, you know.
Yeah,
Well, then
yeah.
also whatever happened to like
The
kids, Cindy and the kids. I don't know what that
yeah,
was.
yeah. I don't know. So I don't know. I guess yeah. I guess we'll see. I will have to say though, I did like the moment where Hurley goes to sit next to Juliet,
Hmm.
and he's just nice, being friendly. She's like, "Did they send you here to keep an eye on me?" And he just kind of like nods his head, yes. Uh, and it's not. I don't think Hurley was meant to be threatening in this moment, but he's telling her about the first other that they encountered, which was Ethan, all the trouble he caused, and then he just catches like, "We buried him over there," and he points, to the jungle. And in that moment, I felt kind of creeped out. I was like, that
Mm.
is that is legitimately horrifying. Just like
Hmm.
one as an audience member, yeah, like this is a funny situation to cut through the tension. But if I were sitting there and if I were hearing that conversation, I'd be like, that's kind of terrifying, to
Yeah.
just like telling this brand new person, like, hey, the last person from your group, we didn't like him. And that's where he is.
Yeah.
He's in the ground.
Yeah. I
That
mean, I
yeah.
think it's certainly um earned though, because
Yeah.
like Hurley's not threatening her. He's just telling her the truth. And that's the best thing about Hurley.
Hmm.
He just says it how it is. And no one's really talking about it. Everyone's saying we can't trust her. Jack's saying she's left behind. She's one of us. But like, no one's actually just coming out and saying it. Like, she's the enemy. You know,
Hmm.
they've attacked us, kidnapped us, killed us in
Hmm.
brutal ways. And, you know, like they're scared of her. And Hurley's scared of her too. So the fact that Hurley came out and just was 100% true with her
Hmm.
was really cool. I really like that because like I didn't take it as a threat, but like it really lends to like the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
And then even like later when Jack was telling her like, look, if something happens with Claire, I can't protect you anymore.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know. I loved all of that.
Hmm. That
Oh,
you did also kind of just remind me of the fact that like, yeah, like the others have been horrible to these people, and it just shows how much like Jack's head is not in the situation because yeah, she's an other.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, everybody on that beach has a right to be afraid of her. And
Mm-hmm.
he's not even thinking about it from their perspective. Just because he's been with her for a week, he also doesn't know her, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, I liked his reasoning though. At the end, he reveals it. He's like, because you were with me when
Hmm.
that sub blew up. I saw your face, and
Hmm.
I knew that more than anything, you want off this island just like us,
Hmm.
which makes you one of us, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, so I get it. Also, the fact that she has sacrificed so much for Jack and
Hmm.
Kate and Sawyer. Like, I get that. Um, but yeah, his head isn't in the game.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And I kind of wish someone would bring that up because I think it was last season or early this season where Ben was always all like, oh, you killed us, you attacked us, and blah, blah, blah. Well, what about what y'all have done? Like, yo, you did this. It's weird. I'm like, mention Steve or Scott, whoever it was. Like, yeah, Ethan went rogue, but like, he broke like everything. I don't remember what they said, like arms, elbows, legs. Like, he was brutally murdered. He was
Hmm.
the first one.
Hmm.
Bring that shit up to Ben. I want to see what his response is.
Hmm.
But I don't know. That's also Ben's style. He's just this like seems like this evil little dude.
Hmm.
Oh. I love the scene in the kitchen with him and Juliet, and she's like, "I just want to go home," and she's like screaming, "Just let me go home!" And he's just quiet. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
And he walks off. I'm like, oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. You should have let him die, Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I understand. Like, you should have let him die. But also, you know, it was revealed that he's going to help her sister cure her of the cancer. So I don't know if that, I'm assuming that's still like an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Damn.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, man, this episode was nuts. And then, of course, through the flashbacks, it's revealed at the very end Juliet's still working for Ben.
You know, it was too good to be true. You know, and even when it happened, I was, you know, when Claire starts having, you know, like her spitting up blood and stuff, I was like, this feels too good to be true.
Yeah, I was like, this is very coincidental. Good thing Juliet showed up. And sure enough, it's because it was all orchestrated. Like, oh man,
like they activate. Ben even says like they activated something in her and in Claire, and it'll go into effect in 48 hours. It's like the fact that even the stuff with Kate, you know, she wasn't gassed. It was Ben's idea to handcuff them together, all that stuff. Like just that fact, I'm like, you cannot trust these people.
And he says, I'll see you in 1 week. Like, oh, what does that mean?
Man, like great. Also, I think never has simple knot tying, not like on a noose or anything, just like the simple fact of like I'm tying a knot, you know, my tarp to a piece of wood. Never has that been more horrifying than in that final shot.
Yeah, man.
Like, oh boy.
You
know.
Yeah.
No.
So, well, that was this episode of Lost. I do like how Juliet calls out Sawyer and Saeed. Like, when did y'all become the voice of what conscience or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, oh
moral
man,
reason or something.
Oh, moral reason. Yeah. The good guy police. That's what I call them. I don't know.
I mean, like, you know, yes, that's true. And then I throw it in her face, like, yeah, that's true. You've also kidnapped children.
Yeah.
And brainwashed people and broken Steve or Scott's in every single bone in his body. You know, kidnapping pregnant women in the middle of the night. Like, sure. One's a torturer and one's a con artist who murdered a man. Fine. I think if you put them on the scales, Juliet is still worse.
Yeah, man. It's nuts.
Because she may not have done all of that stuff herself, but she is complacent in that. So yeah.
It was her day off, Sam.
Oh my god.
Oh man. Yeah. So man, this is a solid episode. It was pretty good. But yeah, I think MVP, I'm gonna have to give it to Elizabeth Mitchell again.
100%. Yeah.
Dude, I think that's 2 in a row. I think that might be the first we've had 2 in a row like that.
I think so, yeah.
What's the second option though? I kind of want to give it to Michael Emerson again.
I would vote for Emerson, mostly because like we see a little like some more facets to Ben.
Yeah,
you know, this time around, you know, we can see him, you know, sort of being, you know, tender, you know, towards Juliet, but also it's more so like how just swarmy this dude is.
Yeah.
You know, like he is so like it's I don't know how I can describe it, but you can tell that he was born on this island because there is a privilege in him.
Privilege, you know, that just entitlement.
Yeah, the sense of entitlement that like transcends one, the fact that he's a white man, you know, but two, just the fact that like he feels that people need to do what he asks them without question.
Yeah.
And when people don't, he has to manipulate them. He has to coerce them into doing what he wants.
Yeah.
You know, the entire scene where the plane just came down, he just sent two guys off to go pretend to be survivors. And he takes the time to take Juliet to the observation room so that he can show her that I didn't lie about healing your sister and curing her cancer. I didn't lie about that. You called me out on being a liar and I didn't like it. Here's the proof that she's alive and that she has a baby who's a toddler now.
He's like Homelander, except we could just call him Islander.
Sure, we'll call him Islander.
That was my college mascot. The Islanders.
But yeah, just the fact that Emerson's so good in this role because it's the thing that that you've talked about a couple of times. I don't think you've mentioned it on a podcast, but like you watch, you're watching YouTube videos of like compilations, the greatest acting scenes of all time, and it's all people yelling. It's always people yelling, And yeah, anybody can yell to like sell anger, or rage or sadness, whatever. But Michael Emerson does the opposite thing, where it's like instead of him being, and like, yeah, he does shout at Juliet at one point this episode, but it's like every single time people have called him out or called him a liar, there's been a moment where you want him to rage. He doesn't. He keeps it all inside. You see the gears in his head processing, listening, and trying to pinpoint where he can poke and prod to be like, that's the thing that's a sore subject. How can I do that? And then twist to get what I need out of this person.
Yeah.
He does it. Yeah. He does it with Locke, in Locke's episode where it's like, I'm going to do this and make it seem like blowing up the sub is Locke's idea, but it's not, like all of that. Michael Emerson is so good in this role. And I think this episode expounds on that. So as a second, Michael Emerson.
Yeah, man. Oh man, so good. It's also interesting again to see Ethan back, Goodwin back.
Yeah.
They don't really do much, but they're there. It kind of helps build that world, Even like Richard and Mikhail, to see both of them, like their scenes are so much shorter, but it does. It builds that world and like the world of the others, it builds that out. Have we seen Richard in the modern day?
No.
Yes, because he's the one who takes Locke to in the prison cell, where Anthony Cooper is.
That's right.
He's still alive. Everyone else is dead, so they're just showing up in Juliet's flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I completely forgot. She was shacking up with Goodwin. Damn. Wow, man. It's crazy. Oh, and we saw the sub again. Fresh paint job, unblown up. It is kind of small. Granted, most of it's underwater, but it's pretty small.
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah, that's how submarines work.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I've embarrassed myself, so I'm just gonna see myself out. Goodbye.
Well, speaking of no-win scenarios, next week we're talking about season 3, episode 17, Catch 22.
Oh boy!
After having a new vision, Desmond leads Charlie, Hurley, and Jin into the island in search of a familiar face.
Ooh.
I like that team up right there. I like all those characters. It's all the side characters,
Yeah, that's a good team up. Yeah. Also, like, I don't want to say that Desmond feels like he's out of place. Every single time like Desmond shows up just for like a brief thing, I'm like, oh yeah, Desmond's here.
Yeah. It's like every time Desmond shows up with speaking lines, like Lost enters a new genre.
Yeah.
Because all the other times he's just kind of in the background. He doesn't really care, brother. I'm like, yeah.
But when he shows concern about something, I'm like, Desmond, are you
Yeah.
okay? What
Yeah.
are we time traveling? Are we gonna, is another Oasis song gonna become a point of interest? Like, I need to
Right.
know these things.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of songs that are point of interest, Downtown
Yeah, it
came
was
back
really
again.
interesting because we do
Mhm.
hear it in her flashback in the car, but then they kind of replay the opening of season 3 again,
Mhm.
almost as a montage. So we see why she was crying in the beginning, and it kind of flashes through all that and the book club
Mhm.
and all that stuff. That was really well done. I like that.
Mhm. Mhm. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I just think it's
Um,
so crazy. We have a full-fledged like time traveler on the island, and we haven't really gotten another significant scene with him in
I
weeks.
know. I
I'm
know.
dying.
He's been trying to save Charlie. He's like he has his own spin-off. He's just doing his own thing while
Right?
everyone else is
It
on Lost.
Yeah, it's like you're, it's like if you had the Doctor from Doctor Who show up in this like giant show, and he gets one episode and you won't see him again for another
Yeah.
couple of weeks. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how good are these other characters that you just get this one, that you get the freaking Doctor to not be the focus of the show? Like,
Yeah.
oh,
We'll
it's
see. I mean, judging
ugh.
by that synopsis, Desmond might be having some new visions next week.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
see.
that's
I would love another Desmond episode.
me too. Me too.
Yeah, so as always, guys, you know where to find us. Hashtag Lost Legacies. Let us know let us know what's up. Let us know if you like this episode or not.
Mhm.
Let us know your favorite Star Trek. Will you be reading Heat 2? And who would you cast as Al Pacino's replacement in Heat 2? What else did we talk about?
Yeah, there you go.
Lightyear.
Tell us what you thought of Lightyear. If you saw Lightyear,
Yeah,
it'll be a while before I see it.
I
But,
heard the reason Lightyear didn't do well in the box office wasn't enough buzz.
Ah.
And with that, you know where to find me. Twitter at _Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo. And don't forget, my comic book has a Instagram out. It's Quetzalcoatl Comic at Instagram. Go look at it. We'll make sure to drop a link with this episode. So go check it out.
Till next time, get lost.
Get lost.
Dunkaccino.